Hi, I'm Ilvy Njiokiktjien, the host of Shutter Stories. Welcome to the 5th installment of our short-form podcast series, Moments. There are many elements that contribute to a successful career in this industry, but whatever route you take, there are two unavoidable truths. Developing your craft costs time, and purchasing equipment costs money. However, making these investments in yourself is by far the best way to get ahead in your career. In this moment, you will hear from 3 creators and their perspective on evolving their kit, self-promotion, and self-belief. When I spoke to Isabel Infantes, she told me about her journey with the gear she uses every day.
In order to be on top, I knew I needed to upgrade my cameras to the best in the market. So in the last year, I managed to buy 2 or 3 bodies, which I'm very happy with because they're mirrorless. And they, like in places like in tennis, it's definitely a must these days. I think they have completely banned no mirrorless because they need the silence in the court. And otherwise, they think it's really distracting for the game, which I understand now that I have my mirrorless. It's like, oh yeah, now if I hear a click from someone else, it's like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, that's been the journey, like going from slowly upgrading as I could, and finally with this mirrorless that's really helpful for the job.
Yeah, Isabel is so right. In this career, you really need to find the right equipment that matches your budget and then move towards the camera and equipment that serves you best. Now, honing your craft and developing creatively is without a doubt very important, but it's not enough. You need to understand the context of your work in the wider industry and understand the business side of things too. And when I spoke to Aïda Muluneh, she outlined one of the biggest struggles for aspiring and new creators that she sees.
The key thing, I think, the big disservice to our education, not only in Africa, but I think in the context of global institutions is, this whole idea of how to market yourself, how to promote your work, to understand the business side of the industry. These are key components that is really missing for us to miss out on a lot of great artists.
It's true. So it's not being taught in many of the schools.
No, I think, financial literacy is not being taught, all these like structuring, because at the end, we always forget, we are providing a commodity in whatever form that you want to, look at it.
Yeah.
But for that, it's really the social aspect of the work that we do, So in that sense, I think for a lot of young photographers or artists, it's really important that it's not just about the art of creating the work, but also understanding how to navigate inside the market. And that is, a very important and crucial form. And to me, it's these are sort of the things that I try to transmit, when I do portfolio reviews or what have you, for them to understand why it's important to know who's in the industry, why it's important to self-publish, there's, why it's important to apply to certain grants. There's a different applications that, we all should be applying to. But if you don't put yourself out there and if you're not deeply in it, then you just move into this obscurity.
Yeah, I really recognize this. When I was in school, there wasn't any attention paid to how to make money in this industry. And it's so important because it is the one thing that will make you keep going as a photographer. You need to sell your images. I always make sure when I'm teaching students to talk about the financial side of things because they will need it. And finally, it is important to remember the reality of timelines in this industry and how long getting to the peak of your career can actually take. Marc Lehmann shared his journey.
So in the beginning, I needed to work in various fields to earn money. And I always had this saying, like 15 years ago, I needed to pay to do what I love. 7, 8 years ago, it changed to I don't have to pay anymore to do what I love. And nowadays, I get paid to do what I love. So this changes over time as you get better as a photographer or filmmaker or underwater cameraman. But in the beginning, it was an amazing feeling when I sold my first image. It was like $5 or so. But it was an amazing feeling. Someone wants to buy my work. So that was absolutely super cool. And once I was booked as an underwater cameraman for like $30 a day, that was an amazing feeling. And a year later, it was like $200 a day. And 5 years later, it was like $1,000 a day. So this changed with your skills and your performing.
Yeah, Robert is totally right here. It took me about 3 years at least to get to the stage where I was getting paid to do what I love. And although I was working as a photojournalist from pretty early on in my career, mostly for agencies, I really had to take several assignments per day to actually make ends meet. Which also reminds me of something that happened to me early in my career, where a Dutch comedian intentionally broke a camera that I had just won as part of a Canon competition. I think I was about 24 years old. And with the money I got in the settlement, I was actually able to replace my broken gear and to use the remainder of the money to fund my passion project, the first reportage stories in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in Angola. My advice is to try to turn your negative situations into a yes for yourself and make perseverance your superpower and just keep pushing forward. This industry is amazing and you can really make it work for yourself. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, then please listen to our other episodes of Shutter Stories. All the details are in the show notes. Make sure to subscribe now to get our next episode as soon as it's released. Thank you, and until next time.